The Holy Spirit, the third part of the Trinity, that's something that we hear about in passing in church a lot, but we don't really talk about it too much. Some churches talk about it more than others, but the Holy Spirit is the aspect of God that is really quite often interacting with us. And that's something to think about when we think about the relationship that we have with Christ and the relationship that we have with God. Something that Christians should be thinking about. Uh, by the way, I'm Brian from Transylvania, and you're watching another Bible reading. I've been reading through 1 Corinthians. I am now on chapter 2, and we're going to be looking at wisdom from the Holy Spirit. And it's interesting, so let's take a quick look at that. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 6 through 16. And let's see some of the ways that God relates to us and through us from the Holy Spirit. Because if you're a believing Christian, you have a relationship with the Holy Spirit. Let's take a look. Chapter 2, verse 6. We do, however, speak a message of wisdom among the mature, but not the wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age who are coming to nothing. No, we speak of God's secret wisdom, wisdom that has been hidden and that God destined for our glory before time began. None of the rules of this age understood it, for if they had, they would have crucified the Lord of glory. However, it is written, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. But God has revealed it to us by his Spirit. The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. For who among men knows the thoughts of a man except the man's spirit within him? In the same way, no one knows the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. We have not received the spirit of the world, but the Spirit of who is from God, that we may understand what God has freely given us. This is what we speak, not words taught by human wisdom, but words by the Spirit, expressing spiritual truths in spiritual words. The man without spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually discerned. The spiritual man makes judgments about all things, but he himself is not the subject to any man's judgment. For who has known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. So a lot of important things, I think, are touched upon in this passage. I think that we see the Spirit is interactive with us. He doesn't just help us to meet Christ, but he helps to guide our understanding and to guide our judgment. Now, I think that's very important, because this may allow us to interpret whether people who are calling themselves Christians are being led by the Spirit or by something else. I think that's something that we see Paul doing quite a bit. But through the Spirit, we find that we have what it says here is we have the mind of Christ. So don't get this wrong. Don't start thinking it's okay. Okay, now I can have a God or a Messiah complex. No, this is not what this is. But this does show the influence that the Spirit has interacting in our lives, and I think that's one of the things that's very important is that when we know that we have this relationship through Christ, through the gospel, the Spirit is interacting with us. God is there. He's active in our lives. Now, this is something that other Christians will understand from Christian to Christian, but if you're not a Christian, this is quite likely foolishness to you. Well, I can be thankful that from one thing to another, I've seen the Spirit's hand on not just my life, but the lives of people around me. There's so many ways that we can step back personally with our relationship with God and say, you know, I see where God was in this. And sometimes it takes time to do that. Sometimes we won't, because we don't see the full picture. They say hindsight is 20/20, and I think it's very much the same with spiritual things. Sometimes we see what God is doing a lot later than you know, what we see happening right in front of our faces at the moment, and that's understandable. We're finite people. We're limited, but thankfully we can trust our interaction with a God that has no limits. All right, those are my thoughts for today with today's video. Feel free to like or subscribe. I'm Brian from Transylvania, and I hope you enjoyed this reading of another part of the book of 1 Corinthians. I'm enjoying doing these readings, so yeah, I hope they're to your liking. Take care. Papa, arrivedere, te ubesk, sayonara, and goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.